We have a question on one of the problems in the chapter 2 in my finance lab in the homework. This one concerns the income statement. This is the info that it's given to us. By the way, the biggest challenge on these problems, or one of the biggest challenges, is to just know what goes on the income statement and which items go on the balance sheet. That's a lot of it. Well, in this question, it tells us straight out, make an income statement, okay? And so a good thing to do would be to go to page 38 in the text, and there's an income statement there for you. And that's just income minus expenses, gives us our net income. And we see here the only income source is a paycheck. Then they give us a bunch of expenses here. And then we subtract income from income where our total expenses. And there's our net income of $533. So all our money coming in, all our money going out. There we go. There's our net. Now another good idea is to, while you go through these, well, first of all, whatever you do, don't just go to the problems and then go back in the book and try to look these up. I can't imagine anything more frustrating, and you'll be more likely to get it wrong, and it'll take you so much longer to do it that way. So read through the chapter, make some notes as you go along. And then when you do the problems, what I would do is pull up the textbook in a separate browser from the homework problems. That way you can easily go back and forth and refer. So here, page 38 would be a good one to refer to. But again, if you go through this and try to look up answers, this is going to be one awful course. So read through it, gain an understanding, and I know that's what most of you are in this course for, is to understand this stuff so you can organize your personal finances. So anyway, there's just one little tip there. So the question actually doesn't ask for you to do an income statement, but it's a lot easier to answer the question because you do need this number. And it is easier if you just write it down. If you write it down, get out a sheet of paper and actually write this stuff down. Because if you do it in your head or just sit there with your calculator and try to remember what you've entered in the calculator and what you haven't, so that's going to be very difficult. So take a minute, write it down. You'll stay organized. It'll be much more manageable. And then this chapter, there's a lot of tedious questions that require some detail, some attention to detail. Very difficult to do unless you take the time to write this stuff down. Okay, here we go. The question actually asks for the savings ratio. Well, what is the savings ratio? Well, you read through that in the chapter. You read a bunch of ratios. There were a whole bunch of them. Surely you don't remember what the savings ratio is. So you go back to the chapter and you go to page 38. No, I'm sorry, that was for the income statement. You go to page 45. That's where it happens to be. And the savings ratio, well, here it is. Hope you can read that. Income available to save. Well, what's available to save here? Well, it's this. It's just the net income. So you've got the numerator right here, 533. There's the income available to save. Divided by the income available for living expenditures. Well, the problem tells us that their after-tax income is $3,050. So that's what's available. If it had said your pre-tax income or their pre-tax income is $3,050, we'd have to know what the taxes are. So, but it makes it easy for us and just tells us it's their after-tax income. So what is the proportion of savings to income? Well, divide 533 by 3050, and you'll get you'll probably see in your calculator 0.17. That's not the full answer. First of all, it wants it as a percentage. So how do you convert a decimal to a percent? You multiply by 100. Now, I recommend you actually do the multiplication rather than move the decimal over 2 places. Multiply by 100, and you get 17.48%. A second question that was asked concerns the debt ratio. Gives us a bunch of information and wants to know the debt ratio. Well, first thing to do, really, is, unless you have a great memory, look up what the debt ratio is. We find that on page 44. Debt ratio is the total debt or liabilities, okay, what you owe, divided by your total assets. It wants to know the proportion of your total assets that are financed by debt. Well, to know that, you're going to have to put together a balance sheet. And a balance sheet is assets minus your liabilities. That equals your net worth, or owner's equity if you've had a financial accounting class. Shareholder's equity is another word for it. So, that gives us this information. It tells us what the assets are. The house, obviously an asset. Cars, worth that much. Furniture, worth that much. There's our total assets right there. And by the way, if you need a reminder what the balance sheet is, page 33. So, liabilities. Here we go. The mortgage. Well, this is what the house is worth, but this is what they owe on the house. Now, I admit a little bit of a irritation here is they tell us that they have 2 cars. They tell us they have cars that have a balance on the loan of $25.54 each. And unless you catch that word, each, you're gonna miss this. So I admit that one doesn't strike me as a very good. I mean, what's the likelihood of having 2 cars with identical loans, unless you bought them both exactly the same day and financed them exactly the same way? Anyway, so we have car 1 with a balance on the loan, $25.54. We have car 2. See, up here, it just says what the cars are worth together. Got to read these things carefully. Car 2, same amount. And then a utility bill. Well, it makes the point that the bill has not been paid. That's important. If it has not been paid, it's something that is owed and goes under liabilities. So, take the total assets, subtract the total liabilities, and we get the net worth of here, $73,594. So we got what we need. The debt ratio is total debts or liabilities. Well, that's given to us right here. There it is. There's our total liabilities. 67,372 in the numerator, and total assets, well, that's right here. And again, you'll do yourself a favor if you take the time to actually put the statement together. It takes a few minutes, but the organization, the practice will help you, and it will reduce the number of errors you make substantially. Okay, we divide this through, we get a decimal, probably say 0.47, but again, it wants it out 2 decimal places as a percentage. Multiply by 100. There we go. So what that says is 47.79% of our assets are financed through debt.